Good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Wright. Thanks for joining me as we spend this next hour together. I do hope you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. Got a lot coming up today. We're going to be talking about the Georgia runoff that takes place on January 5th, and we'll be talking to a group of people in Georgia who are actively involved in getting out the vote. GOTV, get out the vote. It's very important to the people of Georgia. And it's also important in terms of the balance of power within the United States Senate and our government. We'll discuss that. We'll also be focusing on coronavirus and the impact that it's having on people. But tonight, a very unique approach to treating coronavirus. We'll be talking to a doctor who applies stem cell treatments to people going through coronavirus, and the results have been quite remarkable, as we'll learn from him tonight. And then we'll be discussing about the issues involving President Donald Trump and his refusal to accept this election and the results, and how he's still undermining the results of a legitimate election. That and more coming up tonight. But first, my opening observations. Whatever you're going through, understand this: the sky is the limit. Don't look to the left, don't look to the right, but keep your eyes focused on your dream. It's not as hard as it seems, even though we're going through this pandemic and so much more. Keep your eyes on the prize, and you will get there. And those are my opening observations. To start things off today, we are joined by the West Coast Connection, attorneys Mark Harris and Timothy Allen Simon, to weigh in on what's happening in regard to the election and the fact that President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris are moving on. And the President of the United States is still basically stating that he's going to fight it, even though it is all but over for him. In fact, on January 20th, it will be over for him. But Attorney General William Barr, gentlemen, stepped in yesterday and stated that the election was legitimate and that there were no irregularities in terms of voting. What does that do to the Trump administration's fight to keep fighting against the reality?
Unfortunately, I don't think it does anything. It should. If not the last word, it should be pretty close to the last word before something would be able to work its way up to the United States Supreme Court. Even that scenario is a path probably not one that will be taken. None of these cases have enough substance at the foundational level to even get to the Supreme Court. That's part of the president's frustration. Attorney General Barr is so without credibility in my mind. I've been an attorney practicing 40 years, licensed in California, and I've never seen a United States Attorney General with less credibility than Bill Barr. I mean, the fact that he's been the president's hatchet man up to this point, the fact that what seems to be the rule of law within this administration is if you agree with the president, we embrace you. If you disagree with the president, we discredit you. Immediately, the former U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, otherwise known as Mayor Rudy Giuliani, discredited what Attorney General Barr said. It's just, we didn't hear what we wanted to hear from him, so we're going to discredit it. This is ridiculous. I think that Barr is right, but unfortunately, I think that this process, this administration has been so wrong. No one in this administration really wants to hear what Attorney General Barr has said.
Timothy, how do you weigh in on this?
Well, I think the truth caught up to him. He had made allegations that the mail voting system was fraudulent and it was actually a challenge to the democracy. But the review by the states, who again control the election process, all came up with the fact that the election was legitimate, and to the extent that there may have been errors, no errors were at the magnitude to change the results. So I think Attorney General Barr finally looked up and just said, I don't have a hook to hang my coat on any longer, and basically came clean. Maybe too little, too late in terms of his reputation as an attorney general. I feel that he turned the Justice Department basically into the legal department for President Donald J. Trump, and that's regrettable. And I would expect that the Biden administration and his appointment, whomever that will be, will have to do a major overhaul to undo or unwind the Barr era in our Justice Department.
All right. So to that point, gentlemen, what does this do to the reputation of the United States of America when quite a number of people, something like 71, 74 million people who voted for President Donald J. Trump, and yet it's taken up until now for the Justice Department, Attorney General William Barr to come out and say, hey, this was a legitimate election. There were no voting irregularities. What does it do to our reputation?
Let me tell you, I don't know how much worse it can be. I mean, you had the Attorney General of the United States basically leading the charge against peaceful protesters in Lafayette Park. Let's not forget that. He
Right.
was front and center of that debacle. This Attorney General has been, in my opinion, it's not that he's not a smart person. You know, most people want to denigrate him on a personal level. I think Attorney General Bill Barr, before this, had a reputation of being learned, of being thoughtful, of being relatively objective. Unfortunately, in order to really be able to rise in this administration, you have to drink the Kool-Aid. And the Kool-Aid is Trump flavor, orange.
Let me say this regarding the Justice Department. The department that under J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI conducted the COINTELPRO program, which targeted African-American leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton. We can go on, not just with what led to killings or assassinations, but also the dissension and division that was caused because these individuals were standing up to give African Americans the same rights, the same privileges that the Constitution guarantees. So what President Trump has done, as I've said before, he has turned the underbelly of American history, of American government, to make it available for all of us to see. This is a moment of reckoning. It's time for President Biden and Vice President Harris to utilize this revelation to take the right steps to ensure that, as our Jewish brothers and sisters say, it will never happen again, never again.
Gentlemen, when we return from the break, we'll talk about Georgia. Welcome back to the program. So I'm talking to the West Coast Connection attorneys Mark Harris and Timothy Allen Simon. And look, Georgia is looming large. It's just around the corner. There will be a debate this Sunday night between two of the candidates. I want to get into what your concerns are about the January 5th runoff election, because this is really about the balance of power in the Senate.
As a non-Georgian, as a Californian, I want to be respectful of my brothers and sisters who are residents of the state of Georgia. This is on them. The country will be affected by the outcome, clearly. If we're able to win as Democrats those 2 seats back, that'll swing the balance of power away from Mitch McConnell and the forces of evil in the United States Senate. And I don't use that term lightly. I mean, I think what Mitch McConnell has done to jump the system, if you will, in the Senate has been deplorable. We could go on and on about all the different examples of that. But the bottom line is these are senators who represent the people of the state of Georgia first and foremost. And so I defer to their wisdom. In looking at the 2 candidates, objectively speaking, I'm not sure that either of them would meet the test that those of us who've been involved in the political process nationally for a very long time might set as being the ideal candidates for a variety of different reasons. When I ask my friends in Atlanta and other parts of Georgia about these 2 candidates, they're quick to list all the deficiencies these candidates have. I'm talking about candidly, person to person. But they finish up by saying, but we need them. I mean, it sounds very much like what a lot of us said about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We don't think they're the perfect ticket. We may not even think they're the best ticket, but they're all we got. So we're all in. That's the way a lot of my friends and colleagues are treating this election in Georgia. So it'll be very interesting for me to see the outcome, but I defer to the wisdom of the people of the great state of Georgia.
Timothy, from a Republican perspective, what do you think the Republicans are doing in Georgia to try to hold on to those seats? What are they up against?
And I want to point out again, as a former Republican, the Republicans are putting all resources towards the Georgia elections. They understand the magnitude of it in order to maintain the balance, or some may say the imbalance of power that Senate Leader Mitch McConnell and the Republicans have. But I will also say that I believe that the president and the party are in what the Temptations called a ball of confusion. Or Norman Whitfield, I believe, actually wrote the song.
Yeah.
But they're sending such mixed messages about the validity of the election process. The president attacking duly elected Republican officials. Well, with the governor, I don't know if it's duly elected if you look at the race against Stacey Abrams, which I think is a very important point. So I do think, a house divided can't stand. I believe that the Democrats have a very good chance of winning this election. And I'm going to depart from my brilliant colleague, Attorney Harris, in saying that in Artie Warnock and John Ossoff, I have heard some of the most brilliant oratory that I've ever heard from senatorial candidates. I think they both bring a very rich history in the movement for civil rights and the movement for equal rights in the religious sector, which is so important to our African-American history in this country, including such luminaries as Congressman Adam Clayton Powell. I think with the right mix and ingredients and the fact that this state has gone blue, they have a fighting chance. They may be punching above their weight in terms of the unfortunate racial history of Georgia, but there is something in history called when the pendulum begins to turn. And I think they're jumping on that pendulum at what I believe is the right time.
Gentlemen, thank you as always. I appreciate you so much. My best to you and your families, the West Coast Connection and the House Attorneys, Timothy Allen Simon and Mark Harris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Kelly. Be
When we
blessed.
come back, we'll talk about Georgia, that all important vote. That's next.